Hi there, Tyler here for the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast again. I was talking about my shows this weekend. I had Friday at Dr. McKay's in Bloomington, and then Saturday I had an early morning show at the Bloomington Farmers Market. So Friday I had all day off, which was nice. Ended up and went around 2 o'clock to go set up at Dr. McKay's. I was under the impression Laura Lynn was going to be there, and she got off around 3, but then after I set everything up, I went to go pick her up from work, and she wasn't feeling very good, so ended up and did the show by myself. So, which was a 4-hour set, which is pretty long to be doing, solo. I did the foot drums as well, and I decided this time that I was, since I was playing by myself, Blair wasn't going to be there, and I had all this extra time to set up, that I was going to try to play some electric guitar. Just to change things up. It was a long set, so I thought, I'd have some time, and I don't usually get to, spend a lot of time setting up, and I don't usually even think to bring the electric because, that's a whole extra instrument to set up and sound check. And I borrowed an amp from Kidder, one that I've been thinking about buying for a while. A little Black Star. It's only a 1-watt amp, but has it emulated out so I could go directly into the board with it. So kind of a funny story, and this is actually the second time this has happened. I got everything all set up, came back like maybe 40 minutes before the show to kind of get the sound check going. And I do that because it gets busy around the time that I would because the show's at 7, so if I get there at 6 to set everything up, I'm really stressed out because, trying to rush and get everything plugged in and put in the right spot, and B, there's usually a lot of people there around that time getting dinner, so it's really hard to load in. So it's kind of, if I have the day off, it's way more ideal to go in early and get everything set up, because then I can do it at a nice slow pace and make sure I do everything right. And anyway, so this time I was, doing all of the sound checking and stuff by myself, but I wasn't stressed out at all because I had plenty of time, and I thought it was sounding pretty good. So I played for the first half hour, and I'm looking at the crowd and not getting any reactions really at all. Maybe almost some, not negative reactions, but little weird, some weird looks from people and stuff like that. And I'm just what is going on? I feel like it sounds really good. And so I played for 30 minutes, and then this lady comes up to me and she's like, "We can't hear you at all." And I'm thinking that doesn't really make sense because I can hear myself so well, and I feel pretty loud. And I don't know what she's really talking about, but, I'm by myself, so I'm a little bit okay, well, I'll keep turning it up, but if you still can't hear me, just let me know. And so, I play another song. She's like, "Yeah, we still can't really hear you." And I turn it up again, and then she goes out front, and she's like, "Yeah, we still can't hear you." And I've turned it up 3 times at this point, and then I look over and realize that the main is not turned on. So I'd been playing that whole time. Luckily, it's a 4-hour set, so it's only 30 minutes of a 4-hour set where I was being very, very quiet, I'm sure, to the crowd. I'm sure it sounded very, very weird because you could hear my kick drum and stuff nice and prominent in the mix, but couldn't hear my vocals or the guitar or anything very well. So, and like I said, this is the second time this has happened, and there's nothing that just knocks you down a few pegs like that, because it's you think you sound so good because you have the monitors pointed at you, and those are turned up nice and loud, but nobody out front can really hear you, so it doesn't really matter how good you sound. You just sound kind of weird to the audience. So anyway, got that turned on, and of course it feeds back right away because I turned it up a few times since the lady was telling me. And I mean, really thank God that lady was there to tell me, because I don't know how long I would have went without noticing that. It could have been the whole show. It could have just been a few of the sets, but I don't know. I was glad she was there. But anyway, so it feeds back right away, and the audience never wants to hear that. So I get it kind of re-dialed in, and then I play a few songs, and those first few songs are not great because I'm like getting used to, because when you turn like a really loud main on, obviously that affects the overall sound. So it was like a different feel. Before I was feeling really good, and then you turn that loud main on and you get a little different mix. So you have to kind of adjust. And so now it's like, now all of a sudden with the feedback and with it being loud, people are all paying more attention, and you're sounding not your best because you're still getting used to the new mix. But anyway, so this is the second time, like I said, and the first time was kind of a weird situation. We were playing at the same bar, and it was for New Year's Eve, and it was me and Lo, and I think we had a show the night before, and my voice was a little rough, so I'd asked Blair. Blair couldn't come and play the whole night, but I was like, if you could come, like, do an hour and give me a break, so that way, I could pay you a little bit, and you could play a little bit. And so he walks in that night after we'd been playing for a little bit, and right away notices that the main isn't on, so he walks right up to it and turns it on. And of course that fixes it, and it wasn't that busy anyway, it wasn't a big deal, but to have that happen twice just made me feel like an idiot for sure. But I guess that's part of it. You gotta get knocked down a few times to, hopefully from this point on, when I play by myself, I will always check the main, because it is ridiculous that has happened twice. So yeah, once I got going, it was fine. I got to play a lot of songs I don't normally get to since nobody else was there. I was doing some new originals, which was fun. And then I took a break and came back with my electric guitar, and it was kind of clunky. I don't know. Just the way it felt was weird, and it probably wasn't dialed in great. When Blair's there, he's like a guitar amp guru and pedal guru and tone guru. So of course, and I'm just trying to get it plugged in pretty much and make it not sound awful. And I hadn't played my electric for a long time, so just didn't really feel quite right. But it was an experiment anyway, so it didn't really matter. Played a few of the songs that I could get away with doing electric. Some like Black Keys, and I did a couple of my originals that are electric, and at least they were recorded electric, but I end up normally play them acoustic. But anyway, the audience eventually got way more receptive, and the lady that was telling me about the sound to begin with was like super nice and complimentary, especially after I got going and with the main on and doing a lot of covers. I did a lot of 90s that night that seemed to go over pretty well. Anyway, the rest of the show was pretty straightforward. A lot of people in and out. It's always kind of weird when you start at like dinner time, because a lot of people there are there for dinner, so there's like a lot of people there right away. And then those people get done eating and leave after like the first hour of you playing, and then you're kind of playing to an empty bar until it picks back up. So, and it's kind of nice because I can try out some weird stuff when there's nobody there. Like I said, some new originals, and playing electric guitar and stuff. I ended up, and once I got going, was having a good time, so I ended up and didn't take a lot of breaks. I took 2 breaks, and usually in a 4-hour set I would take 3, and I'd probably make them all 15s, but I was taking short, like maybe 5-10 minute breaks, because I wanted to get back up there. And by the end of the night it was packed again, and the people were still digging it. So overall a good experience. And then so the next day, for some reason that night I just could not sleep at all. Like I think I slept a total of 2 hours, and then I had the farmer's market in the morning that I had to get up for, and those are always hard to just do it. I mean, doing anything in the morning for me is tough, but then having to sing in the morning to get the vocals, but then also on top of that, this time I sang for 4 hours the night before and didn't sleep very much, so it was a rough morning. So I ended up in, like, my vocals were just not having it. I tried to warm up a little bit, but the top of my range just totally wasn't there. And I ended up, I did like some lower songs, and that's usually how I would start it anyway. Like some Pearl Jam and some Johnny Cash and kind of some songs like that. My Johnny Cash voice was real good, but anyway, I ended up and I was playing a song that needed a capo, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it a half step back, and then that was a lot easier to hit the notes. So I ended up and just tuned down for the rest of the set, which is a little bit of like confuses your muscle memory a little, but I just had nothing up top, so I did the whole set that way. And I mean, it made some of it kind of fun because it's like those, like I said, the low notes were real easy for me to hit. So I was my Johnny Cash voice, and this is completely unplugged, so you're really having to project the vocals quite a bit because it's just like you're up on a platform and there's a bunch of people walking in and out of the farmer's market. So you just have to really project and compete with the volume of the people walking by and talking. And at the Coliseum here in town, in like one of the side hallways. So it's like a kind of a hall type sound, but with the people talking and stuff, it makes it kind of hard to be over the top. You really have to use that diaphragm to support. But and then I ended up, and I had a recording session planned over in Peoria, but since I only got the 2 hours of sleep, I just knew that I wouldn't really have it in me to do the recording. I try to keep my weekends full, and sometimes I think I just overdo it. So this was one of those times where I was just taking a step back, and I was like, probably it'd be a better idea to just get some sleep and try to relax for the rest of the weekend, because sometimes I think I'm just trying to distract myself from the inevitable, which is a daunting thing to think about. That's the problem with kind of relaxing and sitting by yourself or sitting with your own thoughts, is that you start to think about the stuff that's, or really just death, essentially, is what I'm talking about, about how, we're all going to end up there. And I think that that's part of why, like, I work so hard sometimes to put stuff out. And that's partially why I'm doing this podcast, honestly, is because, you start thinking about what you're leaving behind. And, I just want an accurate representation, even though, ultimately this isn't even if I record this and put it up on YouTube or whatever, this isn't even going to last, At some point, everything crumbles, so. But anyway, sorry to lead you down the dark path, but ultimately I decided not to do the recording, and I think that was probably a good choice because I didn't have any voice for it, and it would have been a lot of extra stress because I would have had to drive, 45 to get there, 45 back, so ended up and just caught up on sleep, and I think that was a good idea. Anyway, so those were the shows this weekend. We had the Dr. McKay's and the indoor Bloomington Farmers Market. And so next weekend I have Houdini's, which will just be acoustic, and then PK's, and that'll just be acoustic. I think Dave's coming to the Houdini show for sure. Lo might come to that one, and then the PK's, it'll probably just be me and Lo. So that'll be what I'm talking about next weekend. So thanks for listening. This has been the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen, and I will talk to you next week. Have a good one, everybody.